Hey Long Beach, Stefan and Joe here with Ficklewood Ciderworks. You might be wondering why and where we are. This is actually the garage where it all began, where we started making cider as neighbors. I live right next door and would climb a ladder over here in the evenings, and we would start making some cider, and this is where we kind of perfected our skills and got to where this idea that we really wanted to go bigger and provide an opportunity for other people in Long Beach to taste our ciders. We wanted to talk to you today about the traditions of autumn and cider and how all this kind of comes together in this change of the seasons that we're going through right now, which is it's kind of a pretty awesome season of change as it is going into these into autumn, but we also have a lot of changes going on just in the world around us and with COVID, and we thought it was a really kind of good opportunity to recognize and remember some of the traditions that each of us have and have had with our family and together, and where cider kind of blends in and weaves into all these different traditions. And we also wanted to spend some time to highlight these ciders that we are selling online. You can get up for order to go or pick up, these wonderful cans of ciders that you can bring home with some amazing artwork that was created by a local designer in Long Beach. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So I think if I were to think about autumn, one of the things that I really like about autumn is, and part of my background, I have a little bit of knowledge around orbital mechanics. And why orbital mechanics matters is because as you go into autumn starts when our days and our nights are almost equal, where you have the same amount of daylight as nighttime, and that's the beginning, and it goes into, that's called the autumnal equinox, and it starts then, and it goes into the start of winter, which is the winter solstice. So around the end of September to around the end of December, approximately, and then it changes into winter. And those changes are very important for orchards and apples and harvest in general. And so it's a time where we celebrate harvesting apples, and a lot of times where we recognize the process of the fruit, all the work that has gone before early in the year to care for the orchards and the fruit and make this beautiful fruit that you've worked so hard, and you're finally able to see that fruit, pick the fruit, and process it in a way where you can start to make the cider. So it's a really time of celebration of all the work that has gone into making the cider. So it's an important part for our own industry of cider making and harvest. And so it's an important part of tradition, and it's celebrated. Our family celebrates it annually. We go to pick apples and see the trees and see the changes, and a lot of times it's very cool when we do that, and our kids like to run around and enjoy, and they feel that seasonal change. And so that's a tradition that we have, and we'll always press apples and make some non-alcoholic apple cider, or just the raw apple juice after pressing, and the kids love that. It's a great experience, this wonderful beverage that you got to pick the apples and experience the pressing, and that's some of the traditions I have. Stefan, I think you have a lot of traditions as well in your family.
Yeah, for me, growing up in upstate New York, we were always visiting the orchards at this time of year and getting some non-alcoholic cider. My grandfather on my mother's side owned an orchard while my mother was growing up, and they would press apples and make cider. And then of course my grandfather would sock some away under the stairs in his basement for next season and let it turn into what they called Applejack. Their version of hard cider through just the natural process of fermentation while it's sitting in a cold cellar for a year. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. I actually have. Just some props. So this was I don't know where that's coming out in the video. That's a grandfather and his orchard and the different apples, and this was their label for cider. Of course, this was non-alcoholic. Steve DeMaria is her grandfather, and yeah, labels have changed over the years, but the origin of the product hasn't. And I think this is a time of year that really reminds us of that, you know. So as we look to the ciders that we've released in can for this fall, we have our original that kind of sets the foundation of what we at Ficklewood are all about, and even the care and love that goes into just our original cider, which is a blend of 3 different ciders to get the flavor profile that Joe and I really wanted. And then on the bold side of the spectrum is Moody Root. And when I think of fall, I think Moody Root is the epitome of the season. It's dark, it's rich, it's a higher alcohol, so it's about 8.4%, so it's a little warmer. We ferment it with dates and beets, then we steep in blood orange, roast and steep pistachios, and then we age it with French and Hungarian oak. So it's quite a flavor ride. It's a nice beverage to enjoy at this time of year for sure. I enjoy it year round, but it's even a little bit sweeter on the cold nights that we even get here in Southern California. So yeah.
One of the questions that I was asked yesterday, actually, at Ficklewood from some people there enjoying some cider, they talked about, they asked, well, it looks like you guys are licensed as a winery, and we thought you would be more like a brewery. I wanted to talk a little bit about that, because I think that speaks really well to why the time of harvest is so important for cideries. Is we are a winery, and whenever you pick fruit and you ferment fruit, it becomes a wine. When you ferment grain, it becomes a beer. And so that's where the distinction is. And so because apples are a fruit, you ferment apple juice and it is a wine. And in some regions of the world, it's called apple wine. In German, it's Apfelwein. And so it is, you can call apple cider apple wine, and it's a lot of times there really is no difference. So what we do at Ficklewood is we are wine makers. And one of the things that we do is we follow traditional white wine making processes, because it is very akin to making white wine. In fact, cider is technically a white wine. But one of the things that Stefan was talking about, he talks about this blend of multiple ciders. That what that really means is we're making different ciders, and we make them with a characteristic that we want. We use a yeast, and the way we make each cider has a different characteristic, whether it be the aromatics that come out, whether it be the mouthfeel and the flavors, and then we blend those ciders together after they're finished to have all the complexities of each of the different constituents, the components of all these different ciders, to come together and become a more complex cider. And that's one of the things that we do, that we've learned from some of the winemakers that we've been taught by, to really create a more complex, flavorful wine and cider that we create. I think, one thing, can you talk to us about, kind of tell everybody about why it's dry, why we have more of a dry cider? Because I think a lot of people are used to going to a cidery and it's more like a syrupy flavor. It's sweet and thick, and ours is different from that.
Yeah, so our product, we start with freshly pressed apples, no concentrates. They're crushed up outside of Sacramento near Apple Hill. Shipped down next day, frigid cold, no preservatives, none of that crazy stuff. We pump that into our tanks and we ferment the juice dry. And what that means is we turn all the residual sugars into alcohol. And so and that's important for me, and one of the reasons we got started is myself being a diabetic. Like, I'm always looking for a low sugar, maybe higher alcohol beverage, and it fits me quite well. And on Joe's side, they're all gluten free, and Joe's a celiac, so it works well for him. It's kind of common beverage between us. But yeah, it's important that we're not getting the flavor artificially, right? We're getting from sugars. We're getting the flavor from the yeast we select, and maybe some of the fun things that we put in it, or the oak that we age it on. We have some with hops, and different fruits and things like that as well. So you'll see as we start to post our nutrition facts, we're starting to get those back from our labs now. We're a lower calorie than you would compared to a craft beer. 0 to very few carbs, 0 sugars. So it's a healthy alcoholic beverage. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things we have on our cans, you'll see that says, we proudly defy conventions with a pioneering spirit that is rooted in tradition. So I don't know, let's break that into parts. What part do you want? You want to talk about the defy conventions with a pioneering spirit, or rooted in tradition? And I'll talk to whichever one you choose not to.
Yeah, why don't you start with the proudly defying conventions?
Okay, yeah. So what that means to us is the proudly defy conventions with a pioneering spirit is to have this innovative, creative spirit about us, where, you know, let's not let some of the traditions be so rigid that we can't think up new things, but still staying within certain lanes, and which are, we like to have whole foods. If we want vanilla, we don't get a vanilla extract, we get a vanilla bean. If we want oak flavor, we don't have an extract, we have actual roasted oak that goes into our cider, or that our cider's aged on. If it says hibiscus, then you can trust that hibiscus flower, the actual flower, has gone into the cider. And so we do make sure that we have this rooting in the whole fruits, but we're very creative, and we talk to a lot of culinary experts, and we experiment and explore these new realms of what can we go into, what can we explore and create new things to excite our customers and excite ourselves, and create and allow some mistakes to even happen, because I think a lot of times we've made ciders that were a little bit of a mistake and came out to, wow, this really impressed us, and we learned early on that it's okay to take a risk and, like, well, let's make it, let's see what happens, who knows what this is going to be like, let's see what happens, let's taste the final product. And we've done a lot about that. So experimenting, being creative is a part of our core and who we are, and I think that's an important part, that pioneering spirit, but the rooted in tradition.
Yeah, so while we have this creativity and what's known in the cider realm is a modern cidery, being that we're not located on an orchard, we're not pretending to be located on an orchard, we're in downtown Long Beach and we love it. But what that allows us to reflect on and to incorporate is that we're still using the traditional methods of making cider, right? It's coming from natural apples, it's coming from farmers, right, and orchards up in Northern California and the Pacific Northwest. So and then that speaks to me personally, like I talk, because that's how I grew up. I grew up near orchards and around orchards, and so we start with that very pure base, the same way cider's been made for thousands of years, and then we add our pioneering spirit, and like Joe talked about, we come up with new flavor profiles and things that completely defy the conventions of what's on the shelf.
So yeah, that's a little bit about who we are, and we hope has been an interesting opportunity to learn a little bit more about who we are and the products we sell. We'll continue to put out in our tap room. We have a lot of different flavors. We're always creating new flavors. In fact, Stefan and I recently came up with a whole process. If for those of you that don't know, Stefan is an industrial engineer, and so we've come up with a really creative way that allows us to follow those traditions and those core tenets of making cider, but also give us some flexibility and to create new flavors quickly. And so we're excited about this capability going into 2021 of being able to have a stronger variety of different flavors. So come into the tap room, check out what we have, order some cans. We'll be canning some more flavors in the new year. So look for those with some exciting new labels, and have a great holiday season, Long Beach. And we hope you had a fun time hearing us, and we look forward to seeing you at the tap room. Have a good one. Take care.